We like to believe we control our money, but at the same time, it feels like money controls us. When does personal interest actually benefit society, and when does it dehumanize us? Well, those are certainly really interesting questions that many people have asked and many people have answered. But today, we're gonna yap about it from a psychological perspective because I can, and because it's gonna be a great video for you and I, because we're gonna learn. So buckle up and let's learn together. I'm Paula, your psychologist who's not a therapist. And yeah, without further ado, just let's get into this. This video is going to be about an article that I read in the Conservative Economist. Don't know if it's like the political views of this, don't know where it is from. I just kind of like stumbled upon this website through my boyfriend. The title of the article is "Does the Invisible Hand Work for Honor Too?" I thought from Montesquieu, the French guy from the illustration. It's called the illustration? No, it's the Enlightenment. I just made a really stupid translation because in Spanish it's la ilustración. My mother tongue, l'ilustración. So, yeah. And as you can see, today we're gonna dive into the world of economics and money because it's clearly linked to politics and it's clearly linked to psychology and clearly policy effects on the well-being of the people. And I'm a psychologist, so you know what? I think I can say something. So let's say something. But first of all, we need context. And this context is our relationship with money. Okay, there's the problem because unlike books, coffee, or I don't know, for instance, I'm gluten intolerant, okay? And I've gone to Italy. Do you think that when I went to Italy, I bought or I got myself a normal pizza? I did not because I'm intolerant. So, and for the record, yes, it was hell. But anyway, the thing is, I'm not gonna eat gluten, so I can avoid it. Okay, let's just say I hate the color red, so I'm not gonna wear red. I will not buy the red iPhone. I'm not gonna put on red lipstick. I just can't avoid it. The same with, I don't know, caffeine. If I don't like it and I don't want to take it, I just don't take it. Preference with foods, preference with anything. But money is inescapable. It's not a preference. It's not a yes or no. It's not a I like it or I don't like it. It's a freaking necessity that we all fear not having enough of it. And people who have a bunch of money also have a bunch of problems. Because yes, maybe to a certain extent it can bring happiness or at least relief of problems. I will say the thing of like, money brings happiness. I don't truly believe it. I believe that money relieves problems and then you have more problems or like other kinds of problems, which yes, are better problems than being in poverty, of course. But still, they are problems. So the person adapts and the person realizes that they still have problems, and so their baseline is different. Their baseline of necessities and things they want to do is completely different. You need more money and then you feel still like you need more and you don't have enough and you still fear that you're gonna lose all your money. At least sometimes. Not like no one in the world feels completely secure. And that's the issue money brings us, because money is the value of everything. Every good and every service is measured by money. The thing is, goods and services are made up by people. And so when our labor becomes commodified or like monetized, it's harder for us to discern our human value from our market value. And that is huge. Honestly, I firmly believe that this is a huge attack on the well-being of the humans. And you can argue that humans have, labored throughout their lives. Yes, but the hyper, marketed system we live in right now is highly volatile, so it is more scarce, and it's also measured. Like, I open my phone and I have the stock market and I have the news and I have everything, So, well, and I have like plenty of people on the internet telling me that I'm poor and stupid, and maybe not directly, but like indirectly. And then I think that I value less than them, but the thing is like, no, just like market value is not human value. Almost everyone I know would have much less problems, or at least feel more satisfied with their lives if we as a collective learned how to discern between market value and social value or human value. So yeah, money is just not a tool, it shapes how we are, because it's not the same if you're born into a billionaire family or you're poor. Like, certainly your experiences of life, depending on where you are born, basically the situation you're born in, highly affects who you become. That's, I think, a consensus. But we're told that we can all change. Anyway, I'm not gonna get into this in this video, okay? We're gonna talk about how labor is commodified, hobbies are turned into side hustles, and people are reduced to productivity, and then they don't know how to discern their human value from their market value. Therefore, we fear money even more because we want to have a lot. And we have it inside of ourselves, like the loss aversion. It's a huge thing. We have it so ingrained in ourselves because, yes, of course, we want more resources. And we fear having less because, yeah, we could live with more, but we don't know if we could live with less. And even if we could, why would you want to have less? That is something kind of primitive, we could say. But honestly, we're not there. Like, this is not a justification. As I've said plenty of times, guys, I hate evolutionary arguments. And yes, again, I do believe in evolution, but I don't believe using evolutionary arguments as like the 100% true. It's not solid. It's not a solid argument because you cannot prove it. And I will say it again, I'll say it 1,000 times. It could be one of the reasons, but this does not explain the whole picture. And now we are all dissatisfied. And we could talk about the burnout society, but I don't want to get into that because I don't want to make this video about productivity and how it dissatisfies everyone, because that guy wrote, like, Bill Chun-han, wrote a perfect book on it, so let's just leave it to him. Maybe I will talk about it another day, but let's dive into the article now that we know a bit more on how market value can affect our satisfaction and our perception of money, because we value it as something really important. As a matter of fact, if you ask most people, what do you want to do in life? What do you want to be? They say, like, I want to make a lot of money. And then you dive a bit deeper and you realize that most people want to make a bunch of money to be safe, but like no one will ever be safe all the time, or at least feel or have a sensation of safety. The thing is, of course, if you're starving, of course, if you're living in a not so nice area, you're gonna feel much more dissatisfied and much more insecure. Of course. It's 2025. We should make sure human rights are being met, at least to the extent to which we can. We should make sure that families and the citizens of a country and the citizens of the world in general are being satisfied with their basic necessities. And we should advocate for more of a long-term progress than a short-term relief. Even though there are some problems in the world that clearly need a quick relief. But anyway, I'm talking more about like civilizations like the one I live in. I'm a European girl who has never lacked anything. What do I know about suffering? The article is so freaking interesting because it ponders a question, which is the line between personal interest and social good. And I think we need to dive deeper into questions like this to boost the economy, boost satisfaction of the people working there, and to make changes in the system that will benefit everyone. Again, I don't think I'm a professional, and I'm well damn know that changing the system is way harder. But let me just try. It basically says that honor sets all the parts of the body politic in motion, and by its very action connects them. Thus, each individual advances the public good while he only thinks of promoting his own interest. First of all, I don't really know if this is completely true. I would like to think it's not. Call me an optimist or whatever. But I do believe that most people, if you sit them down and you get them to like reason things out, they are not entirely selfish. And also, this neoliberal way of picturing the self and the human being, of being intrinsically selfish and being good and doing good as a consequence of wanting better for them, it's not completely accurate. Like, I've met very selfless people that I don't believe act for their own interest, and in consequence they do good in the world just because it's their job. Like, in this picture, this is basically saying that a politician does good because he wants to have a great reputation and he wants to be applauded and, well, maybe get a raise. Well, of course, getting a raise. I, of course, think that this is the cause of some people, but I don't believe this is the cause of everyone. See, people are completely different. You know, you can take someone like a middle-aged man from a place and a middle-aged man from another, and they're gonna think completely different things. And you can take me and you can take my brother, and we're gonna think and process our thinking and have ideas completely different. The way I value some things and others is completely different to the ones my best friend values. Okay, we share plenty of things because there's, like, she's my best friend for a reason, but we have different preferences and we value different things. Some people value themselves more and some people value other people a bit more. We all should be, you know, a bit in the middle. Like, if it were a spectrum, we ought to not be extremely selfish, but we also not ought to be extremely selfless. We can all agree that. Okay, let's take it to the economy. The only reason why people make the world a better place is for their honor. I don't know, guys, tell me in the comments what do you think about it, because, you know, I could understand the argument, of course. Like, at the end of the day, most people, when they do a great act of like philanthropy or humanitarianism, when you give money to the homeless person, you feel better yourself because you think you like have power over that person, so you give it so that they are happy now that you have given them a bit of money. And it's like, yes, you okay, yes, I feel better, but maybe I just feel better because the other person's relieved. There's not one answer. Of course there's the part of like, I want to live, I want to make a living. Of course everyone wants to make a living, but at the same time, I don't think that everyone is bettering the world simply because they want to have honor. You know, this could be a reason, but this is not all the reason. It's like the evolutionary argument. This could have the answer, but not all the answer. Now my accent's getting really American. What the hell? And now we can ask ourselves, would people still do great things if they happen to be anonymous? Like, for instance, people who give a bunch of money. Like, yeah, there's people who donate a bunch of money to charity and they are, like, anonymous. I do believe that maybe, yeah, less people would do great things in the world or save poor children in Africa if no one knew who they were. Yeah, like, of course there would be less people because the people who do it for the glory and the honor wouldn't do it, but there's still people who would do it. Maybe the number would be less. I hope it's not, but you know, not everyone thinks the same for the same thing. And that's how we get to The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. I don't know. Man, Adam Smith. Who was born in 1777. No, published in 1776. This is like the manuscript of The Capitalist. Funny enough, most of them only take the liberal parts of the book because in The Wealth of Nations, Adam Smith talks about how taxation should be progression in relation to the quantity of money you make. Because of course someone who's living off of minimum wage doesn't have the same power of acquiring stuff than someone who's a multi-millionaire, just let's say. So yeah, there's things like this that Adam Smith also mentioned in The Wealth of Nations, but that tends to be overshadowed by the invisible hand, which is pretty funny. Like, the concept of an invisible hand regulating something is the same as saying that depending on how the wind blows, the leaf is gonna go to like one place or another. Like, quoting Adam Smith and also the article, he says, "It's not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own interest. We address ourselves not to their humanity, but to their self-love, and never talk to them of our own necessities, but of their advantages." I have many problems with that. On one hand, it's of course like true, there's a part of selfishness in order to, make a living. But at the same time, it's like, that's not the sole and whole answer. That's part of the answer, and you're making it feel as if it's a whole. And you know what? This is very marketable, because these types of reasoning of like, it's just self-love, it kind of like justifies mean behavior, like not so ethically economical policies, or not so ethical actions towards money, or towards the economy, or towards what a person does with their money, or how they treat their employees, or simply how you view the world and how you view money. If you think that everything is just the self and the individual, which is clearly not, because the butcher wouldn't have clients if no one was alive. Because the butcher wouldn't have clients if the people didn't have food to eat. So he's not solely reliant on himself. It requires human connection. So it's, of course, self-love, but it's also like, it needs the other people. And these types of arguments relate a lot on the individual. Self-love, meritocracy, and all those things that, yes, they are true and they are great, but at the same time, it's not the whole answer of the problem. It's really interesting because, yeah, there's a bunch of people who are looking for honor. And in their careers, maybe they don't center money as much as honor. I will keep saying honor, I'm sorry. As honor. And I kind of feel it. I kind of like understand it. This part of like wanting to feel recognized. But this mere feeling of wanting to be recognized is literally accepting that other people value more to you than what you think. Like, my question is, if other people weren't as important to you, would you still have this craving of honor so big that you have? Because I will accept it. I want the people around me and my watchers to have somewhat of a good impression of me if I can do so, because I want to do good to them. I accept that my desires are not only selfish, because there's something selfless and selfish, because you give up part of your judgments to the people around you. And I wouldn't say that's a bad thing. There's a limit, of course. If you're solely basing your worth on what other people say, that's a terrible thing, because you're subjected to other people 100%. And I would rather be, I don't know, like 20% more or less. I don't know. I cannot put it into percentages. It depends on the situation, the person, and everything. But there's something selfless in being selfish, because you want it for yourself, but at the same time, especially in like wanting honor and recognition and reputation, because you are subjecting your judgment of yourself to the other people. Like, if you don't get recognized, you are no one. Of course, then we could argue of like getting like more money, and if you have more resources, that's entirely selfish? Yes, but the honor part, that's not selfish at all. Of course, I don't think that the opposite is true. I don't think that only making policies and only, evolving with a selfless heart will be sustainable in the long term, because individuals are likely gonna resent everything. There's a balance in life, okay? We need to be selfish and selfless. We need to be in the middle ground. If we're not satisfied, or we're not on the right track to become satisfied. And not only for ourselves, but for the country we live in. And the article almost ends with, the question for society is what set of political, social, and economic constraints might be best to encourage a reasonably strong alignment between private interest and social good. There's the solution. We need to find the middle ground. And to each their own. Of course, the middle ground will be different for everyone. I understand it, you understand it, we all kind of get it. But at the same time, for the benefit of our societies, we need to get to a consensus, to realize which is the middle ground and the point in between private interest and social good. And we should never undermine either of those. Life is not me against the world, and life is not the world is gonna save me. We are part of the world, and we're in a symbiotic relationship with it, and it's kind of creepy, but it's kind of cool. And I know I'm getting a bit as if I were a witch. I'm not a witch. I'm a psychologist, which some say are the modern witches. And I like that. So yeah, without further ado, I hope you liked the video. If you like the video, there's a playlist you can watch of me yapping on the internet, even more than now. Oh my god. And yeah, I hope you have a really nice week. Any thought, any ideas, comment down below. I'd be really happy to listen to them. Mwah.